Welcome to the Exec Exchange, 15-minute podcast in which a leader from the water sector shares a story to inspire, inform, and educate other water sector leaders from around the globe. My name is Piers Clark, and my guest today is Antoni Ventura, or Toni Ventura, as he's known to his friends, the managing director of Aigües de Manresa in Catalonia in Spain. Toni, brilliant to have you join us today.
Good morning, Piers, and thank you for your kind invitation.
The way we start this is always with a little bit of background on the individual. Now, let's hear that journey of how you got to where you are today.
I must say that I have multidisciplinary background. I hold a degree on economics, another degree on law, and finally a degree on contemporary history. I'm not a technician at all. However, my colleagues, mostly engineers, told me that although I wasn't an engineer, I appeared as an engineer because I could speak their language.
Well, I suspect that law training and the depth of knowledge that you need for an accountancy one means that you're very structured in your thinking, which of course engineers love that sort of thing. All right, so what did you do when you left university?
I started in a local company in Barcelona related to shipbuilding. And then I moved to an international company in the food industry. And in 1989, I started in Aigües de Barcelona. This is the beginning of my relationship with the water world.
So it's been 35 years. Then you were in a water utility, but you didn't stay in a water utility.
Yeah, I started in a water utility and I moved to a lot of departments and companies related to water sanitation and industrial solutions for water. In 2012, I moved to Bristol, UK. And in 2017, I came back to Barcelona, and that was the moment when I left Aigües de Barcelona, and I joined Aigües de Manresa because there was an opportunity to leave the company.
Brilliant. Now, could you describe yourself in 3 words, please?
Well, I think that I am a global-minded person, and also I will say I am very patient and a little bit of naive as well.
That takes enormous strength of character to be able to recognize that, because most people wouldn't have chosen that as well. That's really interesting. All right, now let's talk about Aigües de Manresa. Where is it? How many people do you serve? And what sort of things do you do?
Aigües de Manresa is a public-owned water company. We manage the entire water cycle, from catchment to water treatment, distribution, sewage, and wastewater treatment. Our shareholders are the municipalities that own the company. The main one is Manresa, of course. Manresa is a small city, about 80,000 people, in the center of Catalonia. We also work for up to 17 more municipalities, small villages with a scattered population in the surroundings of Manresa. In total, we work for 150,000 people.
With all of those municipalities, how many are on the board?
All of them are in the General Assembly, and in the board, we have 3 of them. The 3 of them represent the other municipalities.
All right, well, I asked you for 3 words to describe yourself. How about 3 words to describe the organization?
Aigües de Manresa is a middle-sized company on its way to digitalization. It's a very recognized company in our territory because we come from the Middle Age, when a canal was built in the 14th century to bring the water to the city of Manresa. It is called Exec de Manresa.
And you're still using that asset? Surely not.
We are still using that Middle Age canal, yes.
Good Lord. Toni, I do have a question. So the one thing everyone knows about Catalonia is that it's quite a feisty area. There's always international news stories about its independence. Does any of that play into your day-to-day life as the managing director of the water utility?
Well, I must say really not that much. Catalonia is a nation with its own language, Catalan. And yes, we have a very moved relationship with the Kingdom of Spain. From time to time, we remind Spain that we still exist and we have our own language. We are very proud about our language, our literature. I must say that Catalan is studied in many foreign universities, so we are very proud of it.
Well said. Thank you for that. Now, the core topic we're going to talk about today is the fact that you have been experiencing a very severe drought over the last few years. Now, thankfully, it's come to an end. The story I'd like to explore is, how did it appear? How did you respond over that period? And now that it's ended, and has it really ended? What's the learning you are taking going forward?
We faced a very severe drought episode in the last 4 years. It was the most severe drought we have recorded. Our water reserves dropped to 14%, so it was very critical. And then started raining, and now we are at 75% of water reserves. The learning is that this is not casual. This is the new normal. This is a structural phenomenon as a consequence of the global climate change.
And by that you mean, okay, you're back at 75% reservoir levels, but maybe this is the start of another 7-year drought.
Exactly. If we have a dry autumn and a dry spring next year, maybe we will start to have water scarcity again. So this is the learning that this is not a singular episode.
Okay, so let's now go back 4 years to when the drought started. How far did you get into it before you recognized that we were now in a drought? And what sort of actions did you take to conserve your water resources and manage the drought?
The water authority in Catalonia is Agència Catalana de l'Aigua. The water authority has a permanent surveillance of the water reserves. In the second year, we realized that we could face a drought. So they started a drought plan to control consumptions. So we were told to contact with our main customers, mainly industrial customers, and also from the agricultural sector to start monitoring their consumptions and advising them to save water, recycle water, reuse water. This was, of course, a very difficult issue because people are very concerned. So it was a difficult conversation with our customers. Hopefully, our domestic customers, they reacted very well. They started saving water. So our water consumption dropped 5% every year in 2-3 years.
And it'd be really interesting to see that now that you've had some rain, whether that reduction in water usage continues or whether people go back to their old consumption.
Now there's an increase of the water consumption, but it won't be as it was 4 years ago. In the last 30 years, we have been reducing consumption per head every year. Another thing is that we have been increasing our population. So that means that we need more water. Now we are about 107 liters per day per person.
That's brilliant. And do you know what your non-revenue water figure is?
Our non-revenue water is 17%, meaning we have a performance efficiency of 83%.
And do you have any feel for how much of that is leaks versus theft?
Maybe 10% can be leaks, which is, I must say, is not too much given the distribution of our population, because we have 1,400 kilometers of network for 150,000 people. This is difficult.
And that's an interesting stat that you don't often hear, actually, the amount of network per head of population. I might start generating some data on that because that will be a terrific figure to have.
Of course, it's very different in Manresa. It's a compact city, but we have villages with scattered population, with isolated houses. We have some villages where we have 500 meters of network per person.
The flip side is, of course, that's a long time for one individual, but that does mean that if you find the leak, it's relatively easy to fix because it's probably somewhere in the middle of a field. Whereas if it's in the middle of Manresa, you've got to dig up a road. You've got much more complicated actions to do. All right, going back, your water reserves went down to 14%. At that stage, what was the plan if it didn't rain?
The plan was first talk with our customers to make them reduce consumption. We didn't cut the water supply at all, but we advised them to save water. With some customers, we just asked them to monitor water consumption, because in the end, for our industry, sometimes water consumption is just a bill that comes to the finance department. It's paid and nobody cares. When we ask them to monitor and look at their water consumption every day, they realized an opportunity and started suggesting reusing and recycling water.
The moment the finance people suddenly see that there's an ability to improve their profit margins, then of course the motivations suddenly change. It's a really interesting thing that as a water company, your job is to sell water and wastewater services. And actually here you are encouraging your customers to use less of your product.
Exactly. We are the only industry that advises their customers not to use our product. We say that our goal is not to sell water. Our goal is to provide the service. Of course, our costs are 80% fixed costs and just 20% are variable costs. So what we have to do is to make it possible that people get water from their tap. And to do that, we need to invest to maintain our network and our facilities.
So we're recording this in early August 2025, and it's brilliant that you're at 75% levels in your reservoirs, but it must be higher than would be normal at this time of year. What's the plan if this is now the start of another 4 or 5 years?
We know it is not possible to have more water reservoirs. The plan in this case for the water authority is we have started a strategy on desalination. We are going to increase our desalination plants on the coast. Another is promoting the reuse of water, like in industrial zero liquid discharge. We are also doing regional government subsidized water network renovation in order to prevent leaks. Because one of our problems is that we have a very old infrastructure. Our network is from the 60s and the 70s, from the last century, so we need to renew our networks. And we have started a very strong leak detection campaign in order to find leaks in our network.
And that's not going to be cheap, of course. It gets very expensive moving that 10% to 9% to 8%. Every extra percent is just so much.
Yes, and maybe next year we are starting this problem again. And so we need to be ready with a combined solution to offer more water and lessen consumption.
Toni, I wish you the very best. We have unfortunately run out of time, so I'm going to ask my last question. If you could go back to 1989, because you've been in the industry 35 years, what advice would you give a young Toni Ventura?
I would tell him to travel around the world to know other water companies and how do they face water scarcity and the water issues. For example, I would like to go to the UK and Singapore. I think that they are doing very well, so I would recommend him to travel and to learn from other countries.
You have been listening to the Exec Exchange with me, Piers Clark, and my guest today has been Toni Ventura, the Managing Director of Aigües de Manresa in Catalonia in Spain. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you can join us next time. Thank you.